Today I'm visiting Diane Heart at Heart Pottery in Brewster. Diane has been making pots for over 40 years. Diane works in porcelain and glaze fires her work in a gas kiln. She will demonstrate throwing a large bowl, trimming and carving it, and her watercolor inspired brushwork glazing technique.
And I'm going to throw an 8-pound bowl, and I'm going to distort it a little bit at the end, and you'll see how. I started working in porcelain, and it was so frustrating because it's harder to work with than stoneware. But my results with my glazes were so much better that I just decided to stick it, just definitely stick through it and figure it out. So I'm really just pushing at 7 o'clock with this hand and pushing down on the top. So I don't have to bring it up and bring it down and bring it up and bring it down like they did in the old days. That's when you almost wedged your clay on the wheel. So now I'm going to find the center and go down almost to the bottom. And I can always check it too. I don't really have to, but I just, perfect. It's like that much. I'm going to open it up pretty quickly and try not to get too much water in there. The porcelain isn't gritty and it'll collapse. So now I'm just going to go and smooth that out. There's where all the thickness is, so I'm going to just start there with a little lobster claw technique and squeeze and lift. And now I can go down to the very bottom and raise this up some more with my sponge in my hand. Notice my outside hand is always underneath my inside hand, and that's how you get the height. Make sure you wet your tools before you use them. So I'm just pushing from the inside into my rib. And this just also compresses the clay and firms it up a little bit. But this is where my McDonald's straws come in. They're about 30 years old. I can visualize and break a pot in half because I usually do that. And I can make 4s, but visually I can't do 3s. So I just lay it in there. And I'm just going to put a little notch. You'll see what I do, just right there, right there, right there. It doesn't have to be totally accurate either. But I love those straws, and I do this with vases too. I thought it'd be easier to film this. It's almost like a little floral gesture. And I just bend this. This is a good thing to do when you screw up a piece too and you don't know what to do with it. You can just play around with it. So that's that. I use this tool to get the clay away. This is actually a plaster molding tool. But that can get rid of the clay, right? A lot of it, so I don't have to do that much trimming. I recycle all this stuff. I recycle all my clay. And I go through 2 tons of it before it gets recycled. And I can put the string underneath. And always turn it while you're doing the string. And voila! That's the easiest part of my day. But notice I trim almost everything on a piece of foam, so it doesn't hurt the rim. So I'm just tapping this on center. You sort of feel that what's wrong on this side and you tap it on that side. It's a little challenging at first, but I started out, doing that because I'm trimming so many things. So I started out, I filled a coffee can with sand and practiced like that. So all my scraps get all recycled, even the ones on the floor. So I'm not really throwing anything out. I felt how much clay I had there. So I don't have much clay here, but I had a lot of clay here because I couldn't cut it in as much as I wanted. But this is really fun making pots. I mean, it's been over 40 years for me. I started in high school also and just fell in love with it. Okay, that's probably enough there on the side. I don't want to go too far. But then I went to college, small college with a really nice ceramic department. And then when I got out of there, I said, what am I going to do? So I answered an ad in Ceramics Monthly and ended up in Oklahoma on New Year's Day, not knowing a soul, and worked at this factory where they paid you by the piece. So the first day I made $9. Then after that there was an art center there, so I wanted to get all my work done in the morning and work at the art center in the afternoon. So I could make like $200 in the morning because I was a fast thrower. Well, you had to learn to be fast. So I can hear the bottom, how much clay I have, because I've been doing this for so long. I'm just going to cut down there and be real direct. I always try to finalize that and maybe even cut this in a little bit so it'll have a better look on the table. I put this on here mainly because I want to be able to see light through it, and so it won't spin and dip because sometimes the bottoms drop in the kiln. So I just want to get a little extra out from under there. Again, I can see the light. So that's important. And I do have a stamp, but I tend to really prefer to just sign my name and then put a little heart. And to flip this over, do it like a cake. That way you won't damage it. So that gives it a nice little lift. But I started, I don't do as much carving as I used to. Before I got comfortable with the brush, by taking some watercolor classes, I carved almost everything because I was so scared to use a brush. And I'm going to show you that later on glazing. I just got to make a mark where I'm going to, for my carving. And I'll wipe this off later. So I got 3 sections here. I never try to break anything in half because then it just doesn't look good. So I'm just using this as my guide. This clay's a little wet. I would actually have it a little bit drier. But these are really old ones and real thin ones. And if the clay is drier, it really just, it falls off. I don't have to. And I've been inspired by all my flowers. Because everything is just so nice out there right now. And I tend to carve pots. You know, I'll decide to carve a pot if it's heavy. And I think it's too heavy, then I'll just carve it instead of trimming more. So. But I can go on and on and on and probably do some more details later, but this is the basic. Like I like to just get some areas to just cut out the design a little bit, but leave the pattern there. So I'll wax my bottom, let it dry. Do half of the inside, just because I like the glazes to overlap. Probably the thing I like least of the whole process is glazing. You know, I love making pots, and but glazing is, I don't know, it's not as rewarding for me. And I used to be really scared of glazing, so I'd glaze like one glaze on a pot. But that's even more boring. I'll let that dry for a second. So that was my opalescent glaze. This is my yellow, which sometimes turns pink. And this glaze is actually from a friend of mine, Perusa, who used to live in Falmouth, and she used to rent studio space from me. She's now in Sedona making pots, and I went and visited her, and it's so exciting. So it takes me just as long to glaze a tiny little pot as it does to glaze a larger one. Let that dry for a bit. This will do it. All these brushes, some of them I've made, some of them I bought. Deer tail. And but these are, for what I'm doing now, these are my favorite ones. So notice these cups, these are all my actual regular glazes. But if I leave my cups full, then I don't have to mess around with them. Sort of follow the line. So this is already, these two glazes are already overlapped, and then you get another. It seems so simple. Sponge designs. To think I used to hate to do brushwork, and now it's just, I just slap it on.
Yeah.
Oops. You just have to be like really loose. Like right there. But I do have some pieces from not high school but college, because I gave them to my mother. She kept them, of course.
She kept everything, yeah.
Okay. So that's it. And so that's that. This one really slid. I like it. I like that too.
Yeah. Wow.
If I can fill this film up, but this is the kiln. So, and this is a car kiln, so I'm basically, normally I'd be more interested in getting it filled up perfectly, but I'm redoing these plates because the edges the glaze wouldn't take, but you can refire things, so I'm not worried about it. So these are my gas. This indicates the gas, and I go up to 5 inches of gas. Well, 5. It's 5 on the water column, and I start at at 1, and then I go up every hour until it's until I feel safe. This regulates the air. This is the damper. So in the beginning, I have it open to about 5 or 6. If it starts stalling, I just add more air. So then, and then the air is regulated by this gizmo here. So I'm usually at about 4.5 to 5 inches through the whole firing, and then I want to cut off the air, so I push this in and go to 0.6. So then it starts reducing, so it's using up.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's tricky. You gotta really figure it out.
How long is the glaze firing?
Mine's 10-11.
Okay.
I
From
used
start to finish, yeah.
I used to go slower. Some people go faster, but the glaze doesn't fit as well, and you'll get like more pinging when you take the things out of the kiln. So this is cone 9, 10, and 11.
And you like cone 11 to be down?
I like it to be down. And this is the top and the bottom of the kiln. That's what I strive for.
Okay.
I've done it to cone 10 like you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And I don't like it as well. I don't like my glaze
The color.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a new color?
That's an old color that I screwed up, and the phone rang, and I dumped an extra 500 grams of feldspar into the glaze, but then I decided I'll test it.
So it turned matte?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then this is another example of I used the straw to create the 3 little divots in the rim, and then I pushed part of this out right here. I love this pot.
That's awesome.
I started doing these when I came back from Hawaii. But then of course mugs.
Oh yeah, can't make enough.
I've already sold like 80 mugs this year.
Wow.
So And this is a little specialty one where I put the little slit in it for the tea bag. And that started as a mistake because I had a mug with a crack in it and I kept putting my tea bag through. And these are a result of, these are righties and these are lefties.
Oh, I can see where you put your thumb.
Well, when I was first doing porcelain, I put the handles on these steins and they all drooped down. I got so mad I just went and made them go up. So I can't sell enough of these either. So, and I love making teapots. I'm in a book of with making my teapots that the colleges have, and see, I like changing the shapes. Like even the top of this, it holds flowers differently than a round vase would. I also, you know, because it's Cape Cod, I put a lot of shells on my pieces. And I had done an installation at Cape Cod Hospital where I made all the molds, and I just used clay for the molds. And then they were just sitting there, and I said, why don't I start using them? I make a lot of casseroles, and I'm inspired this time of year by my peas coming up. So I just like to, you know, add little things. Mainly because I'm such a quick thrower that I like to stand in front of the TV at 3 o'clock, watch Ellen, and add stuff to my pots. Yeah. But my teapots are my favorite.
Favorite to make?
Yeah. They're a challenge. I only make 4 at a time. But
Yeah,
and I'll show you my brushwork when I go to glaze. But this design was made by a rubber stamp, like the stamps you get at AC Moore. And I just pressed it into clay and then bisque fired it. So you're learning all my secrets. See, in this one, normally glossy glazes don't take the carving well. This one would not because of the speckles in it, but this one really does.
Yeah.
So, and then we have all my like cone. I go to cone 11, so, and then we have my raku, which I love to do. So, and again, you know, I'm always changing the tops of things, so I just made it into a 4s, so that gives me an area to sort of picture frame out. So I do the white first, and then I have these little round stamps, and I love doing it. It's just, I like leaving the bare clay so it can turn black and there'll be a contrast. Like I really love this one.
Good, yeah.
Now this is something new. This is a piece that I threw and then textured it with a rasp. Put some little indents in it, and after it was bisque fired, I wrapped it. Actually, it's porcelain with malachite added, and then I wrapped it with jute, covered it with raku clay slip, and then fired in a pit. And then at the end of the day, basically when I went to pick it up out of the pit, all the burnt clay, and
Yeah.
so there's so many things to do. It's like
Keeps you busy.
never get bored. This is another card vase that I really like, and I was just kind of going at random. This is an oval top too. So
Fresh flowers from the garden.
yeah.